Hey, I'm Claire.
And I'm Janice.
And this is The X-Files, a podcast about breakups, broken hearts, and moving on.
We are breakup coaches here to help you beat your breakup,
Heal your broken heart,
and move on to an amazing, abundant life.
Hello. So, I just was on Instagram, as I do, addict here, and I just watched a story from my good friend Annabeth Gingrich. She's just incredible. She's a nutritionist and a yoga instructor, and she combines it all to beat diet culture. She's incredible and has like the most amazing energy. But she was on her story and she was talking about being patient with people who don't understand like what you're doing. You know, for her, she's trying to beat diet culture and, you know, bring intuitive eating around and really like look at food in a whole different way. And she shared, you know, how she would in the past be frustrated with her family members, especially her older family members who really look at food as quite differently than she does. And how, you know, you have to take into perspective someone else's upbringing, their exposure, and all of these things. And so I'm not trying to hijack her idea right now. I'm bringing this around to breakups. I just wanted to make sure I told you where this was coming from and also let you know that Anna is out there and you need to go and follow her. She's incredible. So the same thing is here with breakups. And it brought this topic to my mind. And so I, you know, stopped everything and came over to my computer to record. And that topic is frustration. And dealing with frustration when you're going through a breakup, dealing with frustration with yourself, with your ex, with others, and then outside of a breakup, you know, in several months when you have literally grown so much and evolved so much and you are just on a whole new level, and I guarantee you will be. But when you get there, I also guarantee you'll find a little frustration with people who don't see breakups as this growth opportunity and you know, dark, but so transformative process. And you may have frustration for others in that situation where you're looking at how they're coping with their breakup and you're like, well, you need to do what I did because that worked out really well. So those are the three or four areas. Others during your breakup and others during their breakup. So I just want to elaborate a little bit on how to change your perspective with this frustration and just be a little bit more gentle with yourself and with others. So with you, frustration with yourself when you're going through a breakup. This is such a big one because, I mean, I'll be honest, I think everyone in a breakup wishes they could get over it faster, right? I mean, it's a tough place to be in. And when you're there, it's hard to see the end in sight. And so anything you can do to bring that light at the end of the tunnel closer is, I mean, you're going to be really grasping at that. And so, you know, you may be feeling frustration with yourself for not being over it sooner. And say it wasn't a good relationship. And there are a lot of reasons why it ended. But you're still struggling to get over this person. you may be feeling that frustration with yourself. Or say you were the one to break up with them and you made that decision with full knowledge of exactly what you were doing. You were very in control and you're having trouble getting over the situation, over the person. Maybe having that frustration there. And yeah, I think there's a lot of room for being frustrated with yourself, for taking too long, being frustrated that you can't stop yourself from looking at their social media, frustrated that you can't stop yourself from texting them, frustrated that, you really are craving that drink, frustration with the current pandemic. I mean, it's April 2021 right now. So there's an end in sight. It's looking better than it has been, but we're still not at the same social, maneuverability that we used to have, that people could really lean on it as a crutch in their breakup recovery. So that frustration of just being alone with your fucking thoughts. There's a lot of frustration, but you have to understand that just like, Anna's mother and grandmother and great-grandmother treated food very differently than she is seeing food now. It's because you haven't had that learning experience yet. You haven't experienced what's on the other side. This is the journey to get to the better place. It's all about learning, and these things do happen over time. There are things you can do to make it quicker, but by no means is it fast or easy. It's an active process and it involves growth, and there are growing pains. So, those frustrations with yourself, just take a step back and realize, I am learning the lessons right now. I am learning about myself. I am learning about what I will not put up with anymore. This is healing. And just because one certain circumstance, texting him or checking his social media, or, perhaps you even do get back together and you're like, oh, fuck, this wasn't actually right. Those are learning experiences. You are not doing it wrong for you. You are evolving at the pace you need to evolve. You are getting the lessons in the perfect timing, in the perfect order, everything is lining up exactly how you need to do it to fully absorb the lesson and fully absorb the growth and evolution that you're going through. So there's that. And then my second point, frustration with your ex. Because you can't control people, and they do their own thing. And it might not be what you would have done in that situation. Just to put it out there before elaborating any further, abuse is abuse. Okay? I'm not making any excuses for abuse. However, people have different coping mechanisms, and people have different ways of processing, and people have different communication styles and all of these things. And so, yeah, your ex, you're probably feeling a lot of frustration towards them. Like maybe they didn't beg for you to stay and you wish they had. Maybe they've moved on faster than you would have liked them to, even though there's really no proper time span for that I would argue. Maybe during the relationship, they didn't show love to you in the way that you wish they had. And that was part of the breakup. And you're just like, fuck, if you hadn't been like that, things would have been fine. There's a lot of frustration there. Frustration that they left when you thought everything was fine. And the thing is that, again, everyone has their own unique circumstances. They've adapted in their own way. And I truly, that theory about having multiple lifetimes is appealing to me, because I don't think people reach transcendence in one lifetime. However, but I would like to think that each moment by moment are getting closer to understanding, into perspective, into just like that higher level, and maybe your ex totally lashed out at you when you guys broke up, it's got these calendar invite notifications, holy moly. Maybe they totally lashed out. Maybe they told all your friends that like you had to have been cheating, because otherwise why would you break up with them? Happened to me, and there were a lot of other things going on. That was definitely not the worst thing that ex did, but it's happened. And it was one of the more excusable things. However, it was still fucking frustrating. Like, why do you need to be spreading all these lies about me while also like literally not leaving me alone and begging for me back? It was very, very confusing. But that was what level he was at that time. And it was very frustrating to me that he couldn't look at the situation the same way I did. That he couldn't see it as, when I tell you something, you need to respect that. I mean, that's a big deal. Or you don't talk shit about an ex to mutual friends. You just don't. Like, if you want to preserve those friendships, there's no turning sides against each other. And that's the perspective I had at that time. So perhaps that whole thing was a learning experience for him. And he's now at another level. I am still at the level where I don't forgive stuff like that. But perhaps one day I will have evolved higher than I am now. Who knows? But looking at the things that other people do around us, not as causes for frustration that they're not doing it how we want them to do it, but that they're doing it in the best way they know how at the time. And that may change in a month, in a year, in 10 years. That may change. Maybe 50 years. If we're being honest, maybe a couple lifetimes from now. I don't know. Like, I'm if you know more about like the spirit, oh my God, the spiritual thing of multiple lifetimes and things like that, like, please come into my DMs and teach me more, because it's super interesting. But yeah, you will have these frustrations with your ex. That's normal. But it also doesn't mean that what they're doing is wrong for them right now. It just hurts you. It just hurts. And it makes you frustrated. And you may also be frustrated with others during your breakup. Like, why can't they understand what you need in this situation? Janice has talked about a time when she was going through the breakup when she left her abusive ex, and, you know, her family a month later being like, he was a terrible person. Like, I don't understand why you're still struggling with this. Like, shouldn't you be over it? Because he was awful. And that's the level they were at. And it was very frustrating and hurtful to Janice. And I totally understand that. And I'm not saying that those feelings are not valid and that your frustrations, whatever they may be, are not valid as well right now. I'm saying that you can be frustrated and know that people are doing the best they can with what they were raised with the coping mechanisms that they had to learn to adapt to their life and their circumstances, and that we're all on our own journeys and we're all evolving together. We just might be at a different page in the book, you know? So there's those frustrations. And then the fourth frustration is the frustration of when you're through it, when you have healed and you have refound who you were, and you might not have known this person since you were 6 or 7, and you're like, wow, I'm so glad that I did the things that I did to heal in this way, to glow up in this way, to grow and evolve and just like transcend it all and just like come out of that dark night of the soul with such a different perspective. Just incredible. And then your girlfriend goes through a breakup and she's using some unhealthy coping mechanisms, and she's starting to chase some boys that are just not interested in her and are just kind of using her. And she starts turning down guys that seem like they'd be really good for her, but she doesn't feel a spark. And it's like, that could be so frustrating, especially when you see like, oh, this is a pattern that you've been doing for a long time now. But you know what? She's doing the best that she can with the coping mechanisms that she learned in her unique situation. You know, you may be to a point where you're no longer seeking validation through the male gaze. That doesn't mean that every other woman or, you know, sexual orientation, etc. I try to be inclusive, and I will absolutely fuck it up pretty much every time, and I am very sorry. Please tell me when I do that. So, or don't. But know that my intention is to make this an inclusive place for everyone. It is not your role to be policing me and teaching me how to do this. So, that said, I'm speaking from my experience of being a heterosexual person, so I'll typically use male-female pairings, but I try to expand as much as I can. So, where was I? So, you may be to the point where you are no longer seeking validation through the male gaze, but that doesn't mean that every other woman has gotten there. And you also probably don't see your own blind spots. And just know that even though you've learned so much and you've come so far and you are so much more fully in yourself and your being than you ever were before, you will still make mistakes. And you will still not see your blind spots, and you still have a lot to learn. And, you know, just because you can see where other people can improve doesn't mean that they're doing it wrong for the moment of time in their journey that they are on. You know, it's kind of like your job as someone who is on their own growth journey that happens at this moment to be running parallel to someone else's growth journey. Just realize that your start points are very, very different. And your job is to just be there for them and live by example and embody the energy that you wish they could see, that they could also achieve. You just wish that they could see that they could get there too. The only way is to embody that energy yourself and to be that guiding light. And you don't have to be like, hey, look, I'm a guiding light. Like, look at what I'm doing. Isn't it great? Like, I feel so awesome. No, just be fully in you. And maybe people will notice and think, I could be like that. So I just got really inspired after Anna's story. So, leading by example, taking small steps, being patient with people on where they are in their own journey, on where they're coming from. That's what it's about. So I hope that helped. And I want you to join the Facebook group. We are in there. We are planning for a big live event where we'll, do some live coaching, some live Q&As. It's going to be May 4th, 12 p.m. Mountain time, 12 p.m. Mountain time. May the 4th be with you. And so it's going to be awesome. But we're already in the group and we're making sure to share things that we're not sharing in other places. We really want it to be a supportive, safe place for you to get extra support, but also perhaps find a community of people who understand what you're going through right now. Maybe finding some accountability buddies. We have talked a lot about things you can do with buddies, for a positive affirmations episode. You can send a buddy, positive affirmation every day. So you're writing out that positive affirmation and they're getting it and receiving its light as well. It's so good. And, you can also have an accountability buddy for, stopping social media, going no contact, someone to check in with and be like, hey, did you go no contact today? Cool. It really helps. We are social creatures. So that Facebook group, that is what we want, is for you guys to be able to find someone who understands, who can also be there for you and be a community. And we are there answering questions. We have a few resources in there as well that you can't find anywhere else. So please come join us and, come and ask some questions on May 4th, 12 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Or Mountain Daylight Time. I don't know what we're on right now. I think it's daylight. But yes, so go forth and, just recognize that those frustrations, they're okay and they're not natural and they're normal and they're human and it's totally okay and it's nothing to beat yourself up about. However, just take that moment and when you notice it, take a step back and remember that everyone is coming from somewhere different. So I hope that was good, and I'll see you in the Facebook group. It's Breakups, Broken Hearts, and Moving On. All right, bye guys. Thanks for listening to X-Files, a podcast about breakups, broken hearts, and moving on.
If you like this episode, tag us on your Instagram story so we can connect with you.
And you can find me, Claire, on Instagram at Claire Lofthouse.
And me, Janice, on Instagram at Janice Formicella. If you'd like to join our online community, find us on Facebook at Breakups, Broken Hearts, and Moving On.
And here's a preview of our next episode.
When we say don't rush into anything, we mean like don't rush into like falling for someone new or things like that. You know, trying to make yourself move on before you've really healed.
Yeah. Or any of this, you know, you don't need to feel like I am in the process of getting my groove back, you know, because Janice and Claire are saying that, you know, I need to be putting energy into these positive things. You know, I just broke up 2 weeks ago.
You don't need to do a threesome right now. Just broke up. Get my group back. Threesome. Let's go.
No, it's okay if you're not ready for that, for sure.